Hello, welcome to another episode of What's Happening in Brazil. We are going to start today's show with a super cool story. A new purpose given to bicycles during the pandemic here in Brazil. Considered one of the most popular means of transportation worldwide, bicycles are also very sustainable once they do not pollute the environment. In Brazil, they arrived by the end of 19th century, coming from Europe. Now, more than a century later, their purpose continued to be reinvented. In the state of Pernambuco, bicycles have been used in communities to spread information on how to prevent the COVID-19.
With a loudspeaker attached to its structure, the bicycle passes by the streets and the beaches. Hygiene recommendations are alternate with news about the situation of the coronavirus and a song on the importance of staying home during this time of social isolation. The initiative is part of the Solidarity Hands campaign. Referred to as the healthcare bicycles, this communication tool has become an important ally in the prevention of COVID-19. Using these bicycles, popular healthcare agents take information and recommendations on the coronavirus to the largest number of people within the communities.
Através da bike da saúde.
Through the healthcare bike, we take adequate information, accessible to the population of the periphery, with safe information, which in fact helps in the process of reducing the coronavirus spread in a popular way. In other words, a communication built by the people for the people of the community themselves. The healthcare bike is a project to combat hegemonic communication, to combat the spreading of fake news, which only aggravates the contagion by the coronavirus.
De contágio por coronavírus.
To reach even more territories with important messages about quarantine and the virus, the Solidarity Hands project is receiving bicycle donations. With this help, they expect to reach as many communities as possible.
We are finishing up another loudspeaker here that will go to one of the bicycles for the Popular Healthcare Agents campaign. We need to reach 100 bikes. If you have a spare used bike at home, please donate.
Up until the moment, 6 bicycles have been obtained through donations. One of the donors was Aldeir José, resident of a community in the municipality of Jaboatão dos Guararapes, in the metropolitan region of Recife. The fish's old man, as he is popularly known, gave a bicycle that was no longer being used and talks about the importance of more people participating in this initiative.
With this solidarity gesture, we can make a donation of what we no longer use, but that will be put to good use to inform the communities.
Now check out the latest events in the country.
Last June 7 was marked by demonstrations in several cities in Brazil, both against President Jair Bolsonaro's government and for black lives in the country. The protesters called for democracy and protested against racism. The march defended to oust Bolsonaro as well. The act also displayed several posters, signs, and shout-outs related to the Black Lives Matter movement that has taken place in the United States after the murder of George Floyd by a white police officer. In Recife, in the state of Pernambuco, there were also protests against racism and the police genocidal tactics. Miguel, the boy who fell off a building for negligence of his mother's white boss, was remembered in the demonstration. In São Paulo, the protesters decided to gather even after a court order was issued to try to prevent the act in Avenida Paulista, a symbolic place in the city. In Rio de Janeiro, the Black Lives Matter movement occupied the downtown area. Following social isolation rules, protesters asked for justice, the end of racism and police violence, in addition to the adoption of public policies in the favelas. Demonstrations against Bolsonaro also occupied the streets of Porto Alegre, capital of Rio Grande do Sul. It is the 5th consecutive Sunday that the city's population goes out to the street against the president. Brazil already records more than 40,000 deaths from the COVID-19 pandemic and is in 3rd place in the world among those with the largest number of fatal cases of the disease. Despite the case curve still on the rise, several cities and Brazilian states began to resume their economic activities in the last week, including those with the greatest number of cases. In São Paulo, for example, the state with the highest number of deaths by COVID-19 in the country, the reopening of street and real estate trade was authorized starting last June 10. Such loosening of restrictions also took place in the cities of Rio de Janeiro, Fortaleza, Belém, Manaus, and Recife, capitals in which the number of occupied ICU units continues to grow.
Local family farmers are responsible for 70% of the produce feeding Brazilian families. However, they not always get proper funding to continue grow their crops. Now, a popular funding movement is coming up with ways of helping these small farmers and guarantee the production of healthy food post-pandemic.
In the south of the country, in a town called Viamão, around 350 families from the Landless Workers Movement, MST, by its Portuguese acronym, are responsible for the largest production of organic rice in Brazil. Despite their productivity, one of their hardest struggles is to access funding to distribute their produce.
We know how banks work. They have the money, give out loans with whatever interest rates they want, and you gotta fit the criteria to have access to it. This is very hard for the development of the family's production.
In order to escape huge interest rates that can beat up to 400% a year, Osmar seeks alternative with FinaPop, a popular funding initiative idealized by the economist Eduardo Moreira, in partnership with MST. The project's idea is to make a bridge between those who are interested in investing in a good family farming projects.
Part of our money that is invested at Bradesco, Itaú, Santander and Brazil's Bank is financing a world in which we do not believe anymore. It is financing pesticides and guns. Our first question is, am I investing my money in the world I believe in or not?
The movement First Financing has already taken place. Over 1 million reais were loaned to Nova Rita Agriculture Production Co-op. With these resources, the co-op aims at expanding its dairy production, pork meat trades, as well as its organic rice production. The political scenario, as well as the pandemic, has aggraved rural livestock production, are other reasons why such independent popular finance initiatives are so relevant.
I think the most important aspect that moves us forward is that poor people will not have enough food, as we need to be ready to provide food for those in need. So counting on these investors is a way to guarantee this process in which we believe.
And it's using the foods from the Landless Workers Movement provision basket, another delicious recipe. This is Brazilianism.
Today we are gonna make a bean spot. Today I'm using boiled green beans. The way we are going to make it, the beans need to be very warm. If you do not have green beans, you can use any other kind of bean. Then you add the manioc flour. Mash the beans very well with the flour. If you want, you can also add salt, pepper, or any other seasoning you might have at home. Grated garlic. And the most important is to make sure the beans are very warm. Then check whether the mixture is good. Now take a small bowl of the mixture and let's make a small pot. Then we are going to stuff the pot. I'm going to put cooked rice, then you can add carrots or collard greens, whatever you have at home. Whatever we have in our kitchen, we use. Cooking is always coming up with something new. That's why I never give a very precise recipe, because where would be the creativity then? Here's our little pot. Now put boiled eggs and a cilantro leaf. You can put other herbs you might have. Another filling option is beef and cheese. If you put cheese, be sure to put it in the oven a little bit to melt it. It's delicious. Here we go, folks. Our recipe today with agroecological products only.
And that's all for today, folks. We hope to see you again next week.